Live. How you doing, Mets and Braves fans, whoever you're a fan of? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with the latest post-game segment, as unfortunately the Metropolitans falter in Game 2 of a 4-game set to the Atlanta Braves by a final score of 6-5. In tonight's show, I'm going to share my not only initial reaction to the Mets' loss, their rally falling short, Adrian Houser getting rocked like no tomorrow by arguably the best lineup in baseball. We'll get into the highlights as you see there. We're going to get into a bit on, of course, what happened from the Mets lineup today, pitching staff, and everything in between. But before I break it all down, first and foremost, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button for your boy, as it is the easiest and best way to support the channel. Thank you all so much in advance. Also, apologies in advance if I'm at all a little laggy. I'm not sure why, but right before I got the show started, things are running a bit slower than what I'm accustomed to. The highlights are looking a bit slower too, so just apologies in advance on my end if I don't have the best connection throughout the show. But hopefully this one is going to be fine. So to everyone watching on YouTube, smash those buttons. We're just around 20 subs away from, yes, 25,000 subscribers here on the channel, which will be doing a massive channel giveaway. So make sure you guys get in on the action if you haven't already. Same goes with our great friends at BetUS, who have you covered with all your sports betting needs. Click the link in the description today. That way you too can sign up, and with your first 3 deposits have a 125% bonus, which means if you deposit $100 on your first deposit, you automatically get $225 to work with after you place your bet. It is that easy, that simple. Shout out to BetUS, and everyone watching here live on Twitter, make sure that like, follow, retweet button, but know that I will only be interacting with our viewers here on YouTube. So again, everyone first chiming in, greatly appreciate you all. I'm not going to be too hot-headed with this one, honestly. Obviously, there's some frustration that we'll get into, but how this game ended versus how it started, there's a lot more positives in Mets land than maybe what you initially thought, as the Mets again found themselves down 6-0 in this ball game, but a Braves bullpen that's really doing all they can to keep the Mets alive in this one. The Mets bats clutched up late. Unfortunately, they fell short from ultimately not only securing the rally, but a victory like they did yesterday, but still plenty positives with certainly some negatives to take away from this matchup between the two teams. But Tracken, thank you so much as always for being a great member. I appreciate that. Let's see. I will say we should bring up Scott Vassell. Ain't going to happen this soon. Jose Buto is going to get called up before something like that happens, and that is for certain. Also, I don't have it as well in the graphic down below, and I meant to, but yes, Julio Teheran, folks, just in case you're wondering, was DFA'd by the Mets today. He was sent down after, again, 2.2 innings of allowing 4+ runs against the Braves yesterday. He signed a $2.5 million deal that was non-guaranteed, so he only pockets $54,000, which is still a lot of money, don't get me wrong, for being lit up against his former club yesterday. He will likely have the option to either go down to the minor leagues for far lesser pay or opt out of his contract entirely, so we'll see what happens on that front. But the man the Mets called up today as a transaction the other way around, Daniel Nunez, who's been in the organization for quite a while now, was picked up as a Rule 5 draft pickup in 2020 by the Giants, was supposed to crack their roster, then had Tommy John surgery, so he's returned back to the Mets. He makes his Mets debut today, and honestly, there were some quite awesome positives on that front with how he looked with his Arsenal. So we'll get into that a little bit too, and everything in between. But again, everyone first chiming in, really do appreciate it. Let's see here. Michael with the fight. Michael says, I'm literally paying money to see that to say that Jeff McNeil needing a clutch hit against the Braves is like a fart in the wind. Valiant effort by the Mets. Yes, valiant effort by the Mets 100%, and I agree with you. Jeff McNeil, for whatever reason, decides, you know what, I'm going to try to be a home run hitter, when Jeff, you are absolute best going to give the Mets 10 to 15 home runs in a season. I despise the way that McNeil approaches the plate with guys on especially. That's why I'm not a fan of the believer that, oh, this is a guy that makes a lot of sense in cleanup. He absolutely doesn't. Was lower in the order, batting 7th today. Did have a hit, but with no guys on. The Mets' lack of ability with runners in scoring position throughout the first half of the game is ultimately what hurt them the most, and is why they ended up losing this one, and what ultimately was a more winnable game than what a lot of people, including myself, initially realized. Yoshima, thank you so much for the donation. Yoshima says, disappointing, but showed fight and burned Iglesias. Yep, they did burn Iglesias there, which was great, and that's good too, especially when you look at tomorrow and the rest of the series. But still, though, folks, I want to get in a lot on this ball game. We have the notes, of course, I have on my phone that I'll share with you all in a second as we break down the game inning by inning. But if this is your first time chiming in, thank you so much for being in here. We are the largest Mets platform, not directly affiliated with the Mets or SNY, and I come at you with pre-game, post-game coverage on a daily basis. Everything Mets land is what we cover here on the channel, and I'm always happy to have these discussions. Even after what was a frustrating loss, I was very happy with the end result of this game. all things considered, you're never happy in a loss. But yes, this game could have been so much worse than what it ended up being. I'm absolutely going to take some of the moral victories that we can get from this one, while also being genuine and saying that if Omar Narvaez, pardon my French, wasn't absolutely dog shit defensively, that would have a slight factor into things. I know Ronald Acuna Jr. is the best at running bases in baseball, arguably, but still very frustrating to see Narvaez. His defense, his frame jobs are horrendous. His blocking ability is horrendous. His throwing isn't good either. The only thing Omar Narvaez has provided for us when he started this year is offense, which is something we didn't get last year. But the bigger frustration is that, okay, for everything he's giving us offensively, he's taking away defensively, so he's still becoming a net negative player. Omar, can you just play competent defense, please? If you do that, you might just be one of the better backup catchers in all Major League Baseball this year if you continue to swing the bat the way that you are. The bat's looking solid, not complaining much there, but defensively, that is where we have some big hiccups for sure that we're about to get into. But everyone, again, for chiming in, happy to have you all on here as always, folks. About to break down the game here in just 1 second. But before I do anything else, everybody, my first thoughts, again, for fellow Mets fans, Braves fans, whoever you're a fan of that's first chime in, let me know, what is your biggest takeaway from today's 6-5 loss to the Atlanta Braves? Let me know in the live chat, and then we will continue by breaking down the ball game. Michael, thank you so much for the donation. I really appreciate that. Again, Yoshima with the $2 says, disappointing, but showed fight and burned Iglesias, as I mentioned. Yes, he absolutely did, folks. But Lindor and Alonso are very cold. Roman, I'm sorry to break it to you, Roman, but you either, one, didn't watch the game, or two, just didn't pay attention when you watched the game. Because if it isn't for Pete Alonso, the Mets aren't even in this close of a ball game, which is a proper counter, in my opinion, to the end game's result. Pete Alonso was the final batter. Unfortunately, he struck out there, was the final out. But let's not forget that without Pete Alonso, the Mets aren't even in this close of a ball game, thanks to his heroics that he had there in the 8th inning. And there was one fan on Twitter that commented on my post, because I live tweet during most of the games. You guys know the drill if you've been following me there on Twitter. There is one guy that commented saying it was a meaningless home run. Shame on Pete Alonso for trying to rally the boys late. I mean, literally, without that bomb, the Mets probably roll over and lose 6-0 all right, instead of, say, going 6-5 and losing by one measly run there. So, again, there are takeaways, positive takeaways to take from tonight's game, and I appreciate their ability to not give up the way that we have seen what felt like all last year, where this Mets team had no snarl, had no clutchness, had no bite whatsoever. They were anything but consistent with the scrappiness and trying to step up when they need to. This season looks a bit different. I'm liking the vibes that they're starting to build. To have these tight games in Atlanta is never an easy thing, but yes, to have the turnout the Mets have had throughout the first 24 hours, all things considered, things could be a hell of a lot worse. So we're going to get into that all here in 1 second. The team does have heart. I agree with that. Definitely night and day than what we saw in the frigid weather at Citi Field throughout their first couple series. And again, that goes in hand with the Mets play. Most teams in baseball are better when they have more comfortable weather. Even in a rainy game like you saw in Atlanta today, it was hot and humid, so there's still humidity. It's a little sticky. But again, players, more often than not, from everything I've heard from interacting with former and current players, they love the warm weather naturally. From a pitcher standpoint, from a hitter standpoint, these are things they thrive off of. And hot Atlanta, it's usually hot, usually sticky, but again, great spot to play some baseball, unless you're the Mets, because it feels like every time they go there, that's when it decides to rain. Before I get into breaking down the game inning by inning, folks, I would just like to share a couple more updates. JD Martinez was in fact shut down for the next 3 to 5 days in the minor leagues, dealing with, of course, a back flare-up, which isn't shocking. He's dealt with this every year for the past number of years, but something that helped him a lot last year. And again, JDM will not be back with the Mets as soon as this weekend, more than likely. We're probably still close to 2 weeks away from JD Martinez in this Mets lineup, because he's going to go back down in the minor leagues and continue to ramp up once he's off for the 3 to 5 days with his back. But if there's any encouragement here, JD Martinez, who first tried to play through these back elements in the 2022 season with the Boston Red Sox, which is why he had the worst season of his, looking over the past decade, his worst season over that span. Then you get on to the 2023 Dodgers. He goes there. Instead of trying to play through it, they give him a cortisone shot in the back. He feels great. He's good and rakes for the rest of the season. So hopefully we can find similar magic there, as the Mets did give him a cortisone shot today. He'll be out again for the next 3 to 5 days. Then he will continue his ramp up in the minor leagues before he's inevitably here with the Mets as their everyday DH, batting 4th or 5th in this lineup. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, I understand. This is unfortunately the negatives when you sign a grizzled vet DH in the free agent market who who didn't get any reps in spring training, but he always needed a thorough ramp up because of his back. This is a year-by-year issue that we've seen with them. And if you've been following along the channel, if you've seen my coverage on JD Martinez in the past, you know that this isn't a surprise. So JD Martinez, we can't wait to see you in the lineup right now. But all I'm going to say is it's probably best if we just act like the guy doesn't exist. So that way, when he is finally in the Mets lineup, it'll be this nice, pleasant surprise. Like, oh, we just got one of the best sluggers in baseball in our lineup out of nowhere. That's great. So every day that you continue to be like, okay, when is JDM going to be here? It's going to eat alive at you. It's going to bother you. And naturally, as a fan, you're going to get cooped up and already be like, this is Jed Lowry 2.0. So just trying to pump the brakes a little bit on that front. That is the clarity there. And Michael Tonkin, yes, Mets legend. Absolutely nobody said that right. Who gave up, of course, runs against, that we saw in multiple extra innings there for the Mets, unfortunately, in that Tigers series. And was it the Brewers the first one and then Tigers? Either way, Michael Tonkin, who was DFA'd over the past week, has been traded for cash considerations, making a long-awaited return to Queens for, the Minnesota Twins. So Michael Tonkin is out of here. Again, Nunez was called up today after the Julio Teheran DFA, as you see from some of his highlights there that we're about to break down. But folks, now, enough of me ranting about all that. Let's break down the ball game as a whole. And again, I appreciate all you chiming in live on a replay. Smash a like and subscribe on for your boy. See Kevin in here, great memory. See Michael, how you doing? Damn it. Let's continue to build off this 100%. 100%. And trust me when I say that I know that if I acted, more hot-headed, more irrational, this might do better viewership-wise, but I'm trying to be as genuine as possible with you guys. I was completely genuine in my reaction in the Mets' awesome win yesterday. Same way I'm being genuine right now in my reaction to this ball game. It just a whirlwind. I was initially planning to rain a little bit off of the Mets doing nothing offensively, but they were able to provide some offense, even though that, yes, it was a bit of a slow roll. We will still take that. So now let's break down the game, folks. And again, love you guys. Happy to have you in here. So starting off in the first inning, Ronald Acuna Jr. gets on base with a hit by pitch. And again, early and often Adrian Hauser just struggled to command the zone. This is not a guy that's known for hitting batters, and he did it at a notorious rate today. Hit 2 in the first 3 innings, and that would be his huge bugaboo. A stolen base shortly after by Acuna. He gets to third because Omar Narvaez with a terrible throw there that you'll see in the highlights at some point. That gets him all the way to third. Albies drives him in with an RBI double. Riley with a walk. Olsen with a double play. So 4 pitches in the ball game. The Mets are already down by 1 run. Same way that Ozzy Albies got the scoring started for, the Braves yesterday. That continued once again today. But the Mets down 1 through 1 because they go down in order 1, 2, 3 against Ronaldo Lopez on the bump for the Braves. Ronaldo Lopez, a reliever turned starter coming from the, I'm pretty sure he's coming over from the the Angels this past season. Signed a 3-year deal, I think around 45 mil or something along those lines. Might be 30 range actually with the Braves, and he's being stretched as a starter, and he looked damn good today. It is what it is. Ron, I'm sorry, Ron, but look, if you're a Braves fan, you can feel good about the win, but this wasn't even a pretty win for you. So, like, if you want to say, yes, we know you guys own the Mets, but this was a far from impressive game on your front. You guys rolled over and tried to do your best to die with a lot of key relievers in your bullpen. Tyler Matzik, I know he didn't have the worst season last year, but personally, I just feel like that guy has been washed since you guys won it all in 2021. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just the vibe I'm getting. I know he's dealt with ailments, significant ones since then, but Matzik was literally getting hit off like a tee that we saw there, doing his best Adrian Hauser impression in this ballgame, unfortunately, because in the second, Pete Alonso, who has been horrendous this entire road trip. No hits till this point. Pete Alonso changes the narrative with the double today. Of course, the Mets are not able to score there, which was frustrating. But as you see, again, Pete there in that spot with the double. And then as we advance further into the bottom of the second, Arcia with a hit by pitch. Thankfully, no one else gets on base. No one scores there. A clean inning of work for Adrian Hauser, who, again, runs in on the hands there to Arcia. Thankfully, he was okay. As we advance then to the third inning, Harrison Bader with a single. He's out at second base, however. And this is one of the gripes I have. I will give Bader credit. He was fantastic that we saw there to get on base in the ninth to help that rally. Love that. But Harrison Bader, folks, has what? I think 5 hits this season. 2 of his 5, and I could be wrong on that number. 2 of his 5, and I know this is a fact, have been singles that he's been out trying to leg a clear single every day of the week into a double. I don't know why Harrison Bader thinks that he's Usain Bolt. I don't know why he thinks he's Ronald Acuna Jr. He does not have the legs to be trying to leg out these singles into doubles the way he has. Just piss poor base running by him. It was a sigh of relief to see him have a simple single opposite field in the ninth against a righty and not turn second base, because you're genuinely concerned with the way he's been running the base paths early on that front, folks. And yeah, you guys can chop all you want in the chat, but I'm sorry, Braves fans. If you think that you're flexing hard after a 6-5 win when you're up 6-0, I got a bridge to sell you. So, again, happy to have you all in here. It doesn't matter, though, but all I'm going to say is this one could have been so much better on your end, and instead, you hurt your bullpen. Raisel Iglesias gets cooked. He won't be available tomorrow. He shouldn't be available tomorrow. We'll see. We'll soon find out. I'm not hating what I'm seeing so far. I'm really not. Benjamin, I appreciate that too. I went on a little rant about Bader on Twitter earlier because I was like, why is this man turning first with a clear deep single? Like every day of the week. Like no one's running there. Why are you running? That needs to change. But that's, again, one of the few gripes I had from this game as a whole, everybody. Matzik didn't even pitch last season. And Matzik didn't pitch last season because he was out with injury. Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought Matzik did. Doing his best, Adrian Hauser. Exactly. Let's see. Certified Hater, thank you so much for the donation. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Who's getting upset, Chris? Let me know in the chat. Sorry to interfere, but check the LAC Phoenix score. Okay. I'll do that. I'll do that right now. That's fine. Clips. What are the Clips? Oh my God. The Clippers are up 37-6 in the first quarter against the Suns. What? You guys need to have... I don't even know what to say on that. I'm not even going to comment. I'm not happy with Hauser yet. Hauser looked like shit today. Well, we're going to get into Hauser. I promise, guys. I promise. But let's get into this one. Let's break down the ball game more, shall we? As we get to the third, again, Bader with the single that we saw out at second. Narvaez would have walked. Narvaez got on base 2 or 3 times today, but the defense is what the issue was again. Then as we advance to the bottom of the third, because of course the Mets don't produce there, Acuna with a single, Albies with a single, Riley with a single. Surely it's going to stop. No, Olsen with a single. It has to stop now. No, Ozuna with a single. Harris with a single. Very frustrating. 5 consecutive hits by the hot Atlanta Braves, the best lineup in baseball, you could rightfully argue, toying with an Adrian Hauser that tops out on 92, 93 on the gun usually with the heater. Again, a sinker-heavy pitcher that's looking for low in the corners, and the Braves ate him up for breakfast as a surprise to absolutely nobody. Adrian Hauser has always had problems against the Atlanta Braves in his career. He's a soft-tossing righty against a locked-and-loaded lineup like the Atlanta Braves. Color me shocked. He gets barreled hard and has some struggling pitch location. He had some fastballs that were meatballs right down the plate, too. I'm like, what are we doing here, Adrian? This is not what we should be seeing. Hauser knows he needs to be better. I also don't know how much better Hauser could have been, quite frankly, for a guy that, is likely a 4 ERA pitcher for the Mets this season. Right now, he's at 5.4 through the first 2 starts, but Hauser, we know what we're getting. He's a soft-tossing righty that is heavily relying on groundouts. He was not able to locate properly at all today. Crumbled under the pressure, and again, looked like a guy that was 100% getting beaten up every single day of the week against these type of Atlanta Braves. That just, truthfully, I'm not saying that because the Mets lost. I felt that heading into the game if I did a pregame coverage today, because unfortunately I couldn't. Something happened last minute. Everything's okay, though, thankfully. Wasn't able to do that, but I would have told you that I'm still probably picking Ronaldo Lopez every day of the week, because Ronaldo Lopez tops out in 97. We've seen higher on the gun. Not as consistent with the velo so far this season throughout the first couple games, but again, he has the stuff. Hauser doesn't have the stuff. Hauser has the stuff at times when he's right, but more than not, Hauser's a guy that's going to thrive off of lesser lineups like we have seen to a degree. A Braves lineup, every day of the week, they're going to hit off a tee against him. And that's just the unfortunate reality with the current construction that the Mets have right now. Yeah, he performed exactly how I thought he would. Someone on Twitter, too, I don't know who it was, but shout out them, they said that they thought Hauser would go 5 innings of 4 earned run ball. Very close, as he went 5 of 5 earned run ball. Love watching your shows, even as a Brave fan. 3rd year watching you, Benjamin. Thank you so much for the $20 haul. Guys, can we get some hype in the chat for Benjamin? We got ourselves one of the OG Braves fan followers here on the channel. Always respectful, loving the banter, having a great time. Really appreciate that donation. Thank you so much, Benjamin. Really does mean a lot. And you can tell that there's a lack of toxicity, at least in the chat right now, between Braves and Mets fans, because Braves fans know who they are. They know where they're supposed to be. Mets fans, we know what the Mets are, where they're supposed to be. And the Mets, again, had a miraculous comeback win yesterday, and they just fell short today. So, again, if you're a Braves fan, you don't got much to flex so far throughout the first 24 hours. And as a Mets fan, not a whole lot to complain about, aside from the obvious that we've known for quite a bit now. But I digress. Let's get back into this one. Let's break down more of the ball game, everybody. But the pitching stats, as you can see right here, Adrian Hauser, 5 innings, 5 earned run ball, 8 hits allowed, 2 walks, 1 strikeout, 5.4 ERA on the season. As we advance further on in this one, however, as we get, again, huge spot there for the Braves in the third. They start to not completely blow things open, but a 3-run third is productive for them. And as we then get to the fourth, Pete Alonso with a walk, DJ Stewart with a walk, McNeil with a ground out would then end the inning. Also, guys, just in case you're wondering, Francisco Alvarez did not start at catcher today or DH because according to Carlos Mendoza, he is really banged up. Like, he's being up bad from hitting, a lot of wild pitches. Pass balls have gone to him. Foul balls, a lot of foul balls have hit him lately. Back swings as well. He might be 22 years of age, but he's still human. He's still going to get beat up. And for Alvarez to not even really be available today is telling of just how sore he is right now. So expect Alvarez back in the starting lineup tomorrow, but that's the reason why he wasn't there today. You have to wonder how much of a difference he could have made in maybe trying to hold Acuna there. But the Mets also lead the league by far in the amount of stolen bases that they've allowed. They've already allowed over 20 so far throughout the first 10-plus games of the season, and the Mets still have yet to record a stolen base, a stolen base themselves, I want to say. Trying to think, because Olsen had, I feel like Marquez had a stolen base too this season, so I'm confused. I don't know about that second stat, because Olsen was thrown out. Oh, this is what I mean. The Mets have yet to throw out a runner trying to steal second. They, of course, have had their own stolen bases. Olsen was thrown out trying to steal second yesterday, but that wasn't technically called a stolen base attempt because it was after a pass ball or a wild pitch. So that's a different circumstance. I'd like to clarify that. But yes, the Mets have been horrendous on trying to keep runners on first from going to second. That needs a change. Alvarez is fantastic on drilling guys out. So hopefully, again, as the season goes on, these things start to change and we'll go from there. I will say we lose this game last year 6-0, 100%. It was late, but we still had Randy's in the pen and didn't go out like losers. I will say Lindor has to get his shit together 100%. I agree. Lindor, the fact that he managed to get a single hit from the left side of the plate today felt like a miracle because his plate approach from the left side vastly different from the right side. He's just not seeing pitches well at all from the left side to start the season. This is a Lindor that we know that not every single season, but last year too did have a slow start to the year. 2022, not the case. 2021 was the case. So it does fluctuate year by year with Lindor, but unfortunately this has been a little bit of a commonality with him, and we absolutely need him to be better because in games like this, when you need your core group to step up, Francisco Lindor just providing some production by being the Frankie that we know he can be definitely could be the X factor in winning this ball game, but instead he unfortunately plays a factor on the offensive end and losing said ball game. But as we advance again further in the ball game, as I'm breaking all down for you all, as the Mets drop this one 6-5 is your final to the Atlanta Braves as the series is even up through two more to play starting tomorrow that we'll see. We see here though in the top of the fourth, as I mentioned, after there's two guys on with no out, Jeff McNeil, this is a commonality too today, McNeil grounds out to end it. Jeff, who did have a single today when the Mets really didn't need it. All the other plate approaches with guys on base, just horrendous plate approach. Jeff is still killing me with his plate approach. It is not getting any better. It really isn't. Yesterday, look, I was happy. Yesterday felt like the best plate approach we saw from McNeil this season. Today, unfortunately, felt more the same than what we've seen for really what's felt like the past year plus. But then as we get to the bottom of the fourth, Acuna with a walk. He would then steal second and third base, again, because of course he does. Riley with an RBI single. This pissed me off a little bit. I know the officiating has been horrendous on both sides, but Hauser gets squeezed on what is clearly nipping the zone, bottom left for a strike. Instead, he then throws a meatball as his next pitch. Riley, of course, drills it, and that gives the Braves their increased lead at that point. We then get to the bottom of the 5th, and inning later, Hauser with a 1-2-3 inning, his final line there, as you would see. Then in the top of the 6th, Starling Marte, folks, with a single. Marte's continuing to get on base at a good clip. I've been liking with what I've been seeing from star-studded Starling so far throughout the first 11 games of the season. But of course, right after, Lindor with a double play ball, his 3rd ground out to first base today, batting from the left side. Horrendous. It felt like there were 10 times today Lindor grounded out to first. Doing his best Jeff McNeil impression, literally. Very frustrating there for Frankie. And as we get to the bottom of the 6th, this is where Nunez comes in. And guys, Nunez got some of the worst luck, and I mean the worst luck, to start the season, to start his MLB career, rather, with a call-up today. Because what happens after he's in, Travis d'Arnaud gets on with an infield single. Great play by McNeil defensively, but can't get the throw there to Alonso comfortably in time. d'Arnaud is safe. Afterwards, Kelenic with a bloop single opposite field. Kelenic, who has done nothing in the series until that point. That's the only hit he has to this point, however. Then Acuna with an infield single. Beatty again with an overthrow to Alonso, but I think they still gave the call to Acuna because how fast he is. If that throw's on the money, he might have gotten him out in time, but for right now, it's an infield single, I believe. And then, yes, Albies drives in a run with an RBI ground out, but fantastic job by Nunez to get out of the inning afterwards with multiple guys on. In the top of the 7th, Brett Beatty with his, as usual, base hit of the day. Brett Beatty continues to look fantastic at the plate and defensively for the most part outside of that throw we saw. 325 average and a just under 800 OPS throughout the first 11 games for Brett the Met there at the hot corner. Mets are not able to score there, unfortunately, because Taylor with a double play, McNeil with a single, they don't do anything. However, then the bottom of the 7th, Nunez comes back out, folks, and I want to talk about Nunez for a second, okay? Had himself two innings allowing 1 earned run ball that we saw. Had 2 strikeouts, though, in a 1-2-3 7th against some damn good hitters by the Braves. What stood out so much to me? Fastball, Nunez. Topping out 98, 99, sat 96, 97. Slide piece had plenty of movement. Nice swing and miss. Looked good on the RPMs. This guy has been in the organization since 2016. Was out of the organization in 2020, picked up in the Rule 5 draft by the Giants. Doesn't crack the roster. Tommy John surgery. He's back with the Mets. This is the second now example of David Stearns' adamancy to kind of quickly cut ties with guys that he feel are not going to stay, in the pen, especially after pitching multiple innings and, say, getting worked the way that Julio Teheran was. But then going deep in the farm and looking at guys that maybe, in the past regime, under Billy Epler, under Buck Showalter, don't bat an eye with. Between Reed Garrett and now Nunez, these are 2 guys that no one thought would have any impact on the Mets for the most part of the season and have come out and give them some quality outs. So for the Mets to get this type of production from that being in Nunez, from that being in Reed Garrett, who's won 5.1 shutties so far this season between the Detroit Tigers series and now the series yesterday and the win 8-7 against the Atlanta Braves, the Mets are getting some production from quote-unquote nobodies. Not that they're nobodies, but guys that you probably didn't know prior, and this is going to be a commonality throughout the entire season. David Stearns put a heavy emphasis heading into the year. What you have to begin the year is not what we're going to have at all by the end of the year. The bullpen is ever-changing. It's just about getting quality outs by seeing different pitch mixes and not only their pitch repertoire, but not only their release points, but also their pitch shape, of course, and just everything that they can provide as a pitcher to show you different variation from maybe having a lot of guys that are more the same in either their arsenals or their release points, pitch shapes, what have you. I've really been satisfied with what we've seen with Stearns on that front so far with the bullpen. And I also love the adamancy to kind of be no nonsense between Tonkin, Ramirez. While it makes sense, these guys are eating multiple innings. They're not going to pitch the next couple of days. But still, I like the moves that we've seen from David Stearns on that front at the very least. Steven, thank you so much for the $2 donation. I really appreciate that. Appreciate everyone first chiming in live on a replay. I don't know where we're at in the like count, but continue smashing the like and subscribe on. Really does mean a lot, folks. But as we advance further in the ball game here, we're in the 7th now, rather the 8th. Omar Narvaez with a single. Nimmo with a single. Lefty-lefty action as Tyler Matzek's in there for the Braves. And the Mets have 2 on with no out here in the 8th. 2 outs later, Pete Alonso at the plate, and the Mets pounce. I will say Francisco Lindor didn't have the worst at-bat when he was in there batting from the right side. Was the best swing by far he put on a baseball today. Just shows you how much better he feels comfortable, at least, from the right side versus the left side so far this season. I will say this too, folks. I know you don't want to hear this. Lindor, aside from the last couple of games, has also had some really, really, really bad luck with the BABIP that we've seen on batted balls in play so far this season. He's had a lot of lineouts, 95 miles per hour, 100 to 105 miles per hour. Then, unfortunately, instead of going the gaps, are going directly into the defender's gloves. So Lindor will break out. We just really hope and pray it's sooner than later. And hopefully, if that standing no does in fact happen by you Mets fans this weekend against the Royals, that can help light a little bit of a fire under Frankie's ass to be the man that we know he needs to be. But as we advance further here, Alonso then says, you know what? We're going to bring the Mets back in the ballgame here. I hit a double today. Let's add a home run to the list. Pete Alonso, Big Me Pete, 3-run bomb, gives the Mets now just a 3-run deficit in this ballgame. Brett Beatty would reach on first after a throwing error, lackadaisical throw there. Then Tyrone Taylor with the single, 2 on, 2 out for, unfortunately, Jeff McNeil, who does what Jeff McNeil tends to do, and that's going to be a fly out there to end the inning. Again, I don't have any ill will with Jeff. I love the guy personally, but when I tell you his plate approach is driving me up a wall like no tomorrow consistently on a day-by-day for the past calendar year, I really feel that way, folks. I can throw 102 miles per hour next year. I'm going to try out for the Cyclones. I'll be on your show, WardyNYM. Tony, if you throw 102, we will have that discussion. You reach out to me, we will gladly make that happen, brother. But I'm going to go on a limb and say if you're throwing 102 right now, if you're throwing 102, why do I not know about you? Like, why do I not know about you, Tony Baloney? Love the name, too. Gotta love that. This team sucks. Jason, I know, I agree to a certain extent, but honestly, against the Atlanta Braves in Hotlanta, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse. You got to take some moral victories. It's a 162, guys. This could have been such a rollover shit show of a loss. That was not the case, however. And honestly, if you think about it even more, there isn't even that heavy of a frustration level. Yes, of course, you're not happy the Mets lost tonight. But all things considered, again, this could have been much worse than what it actually was. We then advance there again. Alonso makes it a 3-run ball game. Then in the ninth against Raisel Iglesias, again, the closer, the close piece for the Braves. The Mets work him, which is awesome. Bader with a single opposite field to kick off the inning. Then we see Omar Narvaez rips an RBI double, guys. Omar Narvaez, like it or not right now, part of the intro there. That's my apologies. I always have that issue when I switch slides. Omar Narvaez is batting a cool 385 with an 891 OPS in just a couple at-bats to kick off the season, but we'll take that for sure. And then Starling Marte with an RBI ground out there. Lindor with a bloop single. It's 2 outs. Pete Alonso is unfortunately not able to convert in that situation. But again, the Mets showed fight tonight. There are positives to take away from this ball game, and hopefully those positives can carry over into tomorrow. But I think what we also need to emphasize is what was the bad, because I think we talked about a lot of the good and what the Mets were able to do right in this matchup. But the bad, in my opinion, is the continuation of Francisco Lindor, Jeff McNeil, and again, just the core pieces of this lineup not doing what we need them to do. Just imagine what this Mets team truly could be this year if we do get these guys firing on all cylinders sooner rather than later. And then, yeah, remember JD Martinez? He's going to be in the lineup at some point. Then you throw him in the mix, and then you come to the conclusion of being like, wow, the Mets lineup actually isn't half bad. But the problem is, this Mets team and their core group, this has been going on what feels like 2.5 years now. When they have multiple guys down, it's multiple guys, right? Thankfully, Alonso was able to break out of his shell today because, my goodness, did he need that. He had a horrendous road trip, hitless up until today. Pretty sure he was like 0 for 18 or 19 entering tonight's ball game against the Braves. But outside of Alonso's production today, we've seen the Mets struggle in bunches. We've seen them falter in the sense of Lindor, even Alvarez and Alonso. Those guys all went for 0 for yesterday, so the fact they even won that ball game is a miracle. Again, Brandon Nimmo isn't going to be Barry Bonds in an everyday night. This is not a sustained way to have success. They know that, and that's why we really need to see these guys start to break out. And unfortunately, the more I think about it, especially in the case of McNeil, you have to wonder just how much does he provide for this team, truthfully, on the day-by-day, if his bat is going to continue to have the struggles and the ailments that it's had. We need McNeil to go back to being the player that he's been when at its best. I know that today's game is not great for slap hitters anymore. Fully aware of that. This is not 2019 anymore. But at the same time, we're not far removed from 2022. Can Jeff go back to being that guy that's going to give you a guaranteed 2 to 3 hits every night? It feels like we haven't seen that in literally over a year consistently. Yes, he had his little stretch for the past 2 months last year, but that was zero pressure, zero expectations. Those things definitely go in hand with a player's psyche to a degree. Absolutely. Jeff is a guy that we really need to start to turn it on, because the more you think about it, the more you see this roster configuration, it's hard to envision a guy of his production or lack thereof having an impact on the Mets, and especially being on the Mets for more than this calendar season. And that's assuming that he's with this Mets team after the trade deadline. So between McNeil's lack of production, Lindor, we all know, needs to step up. I'll call it how it is. Again, another shit show performance for the most part. I will say some encouragement from the right side of the plate. The bloopy didn't hurt. He did his job in the ninth by getting on base. Would have loved to see a bomb or a double there, but hey, I'm going to take something versus nothing every single day of the week. But this core group, again, folks, we just need to get them in unison. If we don't get them in unison, do not expect to win much ball games this year. Vientos, and speaking of Vientos here for a second, because I do want to emphasize another thing, guys, on the Mark Vientos front, okay? And I don't know, we're on the like count again, but if you guys, again, can help us get to 100, 200 likes at some point, it really does mean a lot. People watching on Twitter, thank you all so much. Hit that like, retweet button, follow, all that stuff. But, when you look at this team right now, where we're at, you have to wonder, with JD Martinez, Mark Vientos, did the Mets make a mistake by starting the year without JD Martinez and not without Mark Vientos? That's what I meant. And while there's been some proper arguments to suggest that Mark Vientos should have started the year with the Mets as their everyday DH until JDM is in this lineup, this is why I still don't think it makes all that much sense. And maybe I'm in the minority here, and that's okay. Wouldn't be the first time. I don't have a problem with Mark Vientos being in the minors to start the season, even if JD Martinez does not arrive with the Mets for another 2 weeks. And the reason why I say that is the Mets already made their commitment to DJ Stewart. They're going to stand by that for the time being, especially after his home run yesterday, until we see probably JDM in this lineup. Mark Vientos in AAA has the ability to play at the hot corner, get reps at first base, and of course DH occasionally too, but he's getting defensive reps that he would not be getting at the major league level right now, and if he were, then you're taking time away from Brett Beatty, and that's a frustrating thing too, right? So while, yes, the one caveat is, okay, if you had Vientos DHing every single day, that's awesome, and then that's something to build off of, my counter is, I don't know how much benefit Mark Vientos actually gets by being the Mets' everyday DH, where let's call it a buck. If he was off to a rough start, which he very well could have been, Mark Vientos, he's yet to prove himself at the MLB level, albeit platoon sample size. I know he deserves more reps. Having said that, if he gets off to a rough start, everyone is calling for his head. Everyone is saying to send his ass down. So again, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't in Mets land with the fandom when it comes to these kind of decisions. And Vientos not having the defensive reps because he's not a good third baseman. We know that. He's yet to prove that he's anything competent at the hot corner. Brett Beatty's made major strides, and he's still far from perfect, including the throw we saw to Alonso. I know it was rushed. Again, Acuna Jr. makes a lot of sense. Doesn't change the fact that, there's still some struggles there. I just don't see how much benefit Vientos ultimately gets, even in this scenario where, say, he was thriving, and then in a couple of weeks, he's automatically sent down because the Mets were never going to keep him on the roster with JD Martinez. That is kind of where I get at with that viewpoint. I also understand that, you can look at Vientos off to a hot start in Syracuse, over 300 average, over 900 OPS, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs. But again, the counter is, that's AAA. Who's to say he's going to do this at the major league level, right? I think you can argue that his psyche might be hurt a little bit more by starting the season with the Mets, struggling in a platoon spot where, let's also not forget, if aside from JD Martinez, he's the exception to having an everyday DH, as you know exactly what you're getting, that being in JDM. But the Mets, aside from that, want to have this revolving door at the DH a little bit. They want to make sure that they have flexibility based on matchups, that they can bring in a pinch hitter like Tyrone Taylor today for DJ Stewart, because Tyrone was coming off the bench with Bader getting the start. Whether you agree or disagree with that, that's just what happened. So these are other things to factor in. Do you really want Mark Vientos' any type of confidence that he currently has to be hurt even more early on at the MLB level because he's, say, being platoon at DH, being platoon at third base. And okay, if he's platoon at third base, you are then hurting the potential development of Brett Baty. Just imagine what the season would be like to start if Brett wasn't given everyday reps at the third base position for the most part. His confidence level isn't to the degree that it currently is. He's going to weigh his head low more and have heavier pressure on his shoulders in a platoon spot should he, say, struggle, where the fans are going to go at him. Same thing can be said with Vientos. So that's kind of where I stand on that viewpoint. I'm not one of these fans that's like, oh my goodness, you absolutely need to have Marky V up with the team right now. How dare you not? I don't foresee that to be the case. But if JD Martinez, God forbid, is out for 2 months, then that's a different discussion, right? Then we will have them, and then I think you could warrant, okay, maybe it's time to bring him up. Jose Butto is better than Hauser. I don't disagree with you. I like Jose Butto quite a bit, and Jose Butto, folks, will be called up as soon as April 12th. I believe that is the earliest he can be called up. That is not an injured list transaction there. So Jose Butto, expect him to be up. I'm pretty sure he'll be slotted in comfortably for that Kansas City Royals series, so we'll see him make his second start of the year. His first start was 6 innings of 1 earned run ball. Not too shabby for the young right-hander who's looking good with the fastball and the breaking stuff. So they option Nunez to AAA Syracuse post-game. Are you shitting me already? They're killing me. They're killing me. They already sent him down? Where did you see that? Was it Anthony DiComo? Oh my God, are you shitting me? Oh wait, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. Scratch it, scratch it, scratch it. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. This is exactly why they sent him down. They sent him down because he just pitched 2 innings today. He's not going to pitch tomorrow. You're going to call up a fresh arm. That's what you're going to do. Mets will have a fresh reliever tomorrow. That's the David Stearns way, and that's fine. That I understand. I don't know why for a second I was blanking, thinking like, oh my God, Nunez just had a solid outing. He's sent down. We're not going to see him for a while. Not the case. Nunez will be back up with the Mets soon enough, I'm sure. But he's sent down again because he will not be made available tomorrow after pitching 2 innings today. That is the reason, folks, and that is fine. You want to make sure you have as many fresh arms in the pen as possible. Nunez will not be available tomorrow. That's fine. We move on. Not complaining there. Good move by David Stearns. Okay, before I wrap things up, folks, and before we get out of here, as you take a look at the Mets hitting stats tonight, folks, Brandon Nimmo, 0 for 5, not 0 for 5, 1 for 5 with a run scored. Starling Marte, 1 for 5 with an RBI. Francisco Lindor, 1 for 5, no RBIs. Pete Alonso, 2 for 4, a run scored, 3 RBIs, the big home run that we saw. Brett Baty, Brett the effing Met, 1 for 4. Tyrone Taylor coming in for DJ Stewart. DJ did have an RBI today, I do believe. There wasn't, yeah, he was given an RBI there in the DH position. 0 for 1, though. Taylor, 1 for 2. McNeil, 1 for 4. But again, bad at-bats today by Jeff. Frustrating at-bats. Bader, 2 for 4. And Omar Narvaez, 2 for 3 with 2 runs scored. And they have him with an RBI on the double that we saw. All good. Gotcha. Bench McNeil. I mean, McNeil hasn't been playing every day. It wouldn't shock me if that happens. Tax bullpen was one of our problems in 2023. Absolutely. And the Mets struggled. They really try to stretch out guys when they shouldn't have. So, again, I like the adamancy. I like the aggressiveness here by David Stearns, folks. But before we wrap things up, before I get out of here, everybody, let me know any final questions, comments, and concerns you got for me. I will gladly take them now. Again, I appreciate you all that have taken the time to chime in as the Metropolitans unfortunately faltered tonight by a final score of 6-5 to the Atlanta Braves. Take another question or two before we wrap things up. Wonder how much of McNeil's struggles are related to him changing his bat. I kind of wonder that too. Jeff with the no knob is the best thing to happen. And I don't know why we're switching that up now, assuming he doesn't have the no knob. If it wasn't for Masturbator, that's funny, Daniel. It's a dumb decision. He had a good day. I agree. Bader's defense was good. Got the hit late. That ultimately was a run score that made it close. But it's like, Harrison, just learn from your mistakes, please. Now it's twice this season where you're coming out here running to second when you should not be running to second. I mean, it's common. Literally, as soon as I saw the deep single, I was like, that's a single right away. Didn't think for right here, guys. Let's watch the highlights together. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. That's the wrong thing. That was when fucking Acuna scored. Pardon my French. But yeah, Bader, that was frustrating on that front. Just clean that up, and we're fine. We really are. Nunez didn't do that bad, all things considered. No, he really didn't, Matthew. Hope you're doing well, too. I haven't seen you in a minute, at least from checking the chat. So my apologies if you have been chiming in. Matt Allen, will he ever play? Your guess is as good as mine. He's trying, but we're going to go on now about 6 years where Matt Allen hasn't played in a professional baseball game. It's 4 or 6, but it's a lot, and it's not good. Not good. Once again, no, Jay, you are the man. You absolute beauty. Happy to have you in here. No, we lost, but I was getting 1.5 runs tonight. There you go. There you go. We'll take that. We'll gladly take that. Yes, if you hammered the Mets spread today, you came out winning. That's true, Daniel. Great point. Mets made it a 1-run ball game. Everyone that hammered plus 1.5 on the Mets spread, folks, you came out cashing out. You'll love to see that. Elbows are being blown out left and right this year. Alex, it's kind of crazy how you just read my mind. Holy shit. I mean, between Framber Valdez is put on the IL with elbow inflammation. Nick Pivetta just got injured by the Boston Red Sox on the 15-day AL. Josiah Gray, 15-day AL with, I think, a flexor issue. So we have seen the worst past week for pitchers in Major League Baseball injury-wise, and it goes directly in hand with the baseballs. Goes directly in hand with pitchers being rushed with the pitch clock. Goes directly in hand with the pitch with some guys, Spencer Strider-esque, throwing as hard as humanly possible when the UCL cannot handle it. Even after you get TJ say once or twice, it's still not going to be able to handle it. Also, horizontal movement. Recent studies have shown that sweepers, for example, certain heavy horizontal type pitches have shown a drastic increase in pitcher injuries as well. Then you have fluke injuries, unfortunately, for position players. Trevor Story out for the season now with his bum shoulder after unfortunately falling so hard instead of a dive. It was anything but that we saw a couple games ago. The guy just got back from, a year-long injury, 1.5 plus, and now he's going to be out again for another year. He was really choked up in his presser today. I feel for him, and truthfully, I hope that he has a very speedy recovery. It's been a terrible contract for Boston, but it's not for a lack of effort on Trevor's end, just unfortunate realities between him basically needing Tommy John, which was an evaluation that the Red Sox bypassed when they signed him, which was stupid, but now a fluke shoulder injury too, and just like that. And oh yeah, to add insult to injury, why am I blanking on his name right now? Wow, this is embarrassing because he's been one of my favorite players on the White Sox for years, but he's just dealt with so many injuries, unfortunately. Is he Yon Mercado? Why does that name not sound right? Enlighten me, guys. Can you help fill the void for me? Who's on the White Sox? Third base. Please enlighten me. I'm blanking so hard right now, and it's pissing me off. It really is. He just got put on the shelf with an injury today, too, which sucks. And he's been injured like every year it feels like. Why am I blanking on this man's name? Please, someone, before we wrap up the show, I need an answer here. I need an answer. It can't be a Google search. You got to do it for me. Let's see it. Mancada. His first name ain't Town, though. Mancada, I know. What's his first name? Is it Yon Mancada? Okay. I'm not going crazy. It's Yon Mancada. I don't know why I'm losing. Maybe it's Johan Ramirez. His name is throwing me off for some reason. Yon Mancada, again, healthy. I like a lot about his game. He just hasn't been healthy for like his entire stint. The Chicago White Sox are the Wilpon Mets in the sense of everyone their mother gets hurt every year right as the season begins. Guys, that is going to do it for the show. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. We'll be back live tomorrow, hoping for pregame coverage, hoping for postgame, and depending on the result of tomorrow's game, we might do some callers. Didn't do them tonight because I knew that the viewership wouldn't be as high after a loss, but especially if there's more dramatic fashion tomorrow, the Mets get a big win, or if they lose in a dramatic fashion, that may warrant the callers a bit more. So be on the lookout. Thank you all so much as always, and no matter what, even after a loss, let's go Mets.